Yeah, we went to Bournemouth. We got beaten. It's not really about the result. It's about the manner in which we got beaten. Lots of tears before bedtime. Lots of people saying hurty things. So let's join in. Tony, how are you feeling?
I have no problem with being beaten by Bournemouth. If we play well, we just get beaten by a better team.
Yeah.
But if we'd have rolled over any more and had our tummies tickled, it could have probably ended up being on a sex register. It was it was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting, the manner of that.
It was horrible. I had to watch it 3 times just to realise how disgusting it was.
Honestly, I have never. If that probably ranks as the second most abject performance of the season. Probably even top. Depending on which version you look at it, probably even tops. It was just in every department. There just wasn't a redeeming. The only redeeming factor in that was Fraser Forster, and that's saying a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, considering he nearly gave a second goal, for him to even after that clownish activity to still be considered to be potentially the best player on the pitch for us, just pretty much says it all about how abjectly.
Chris, you I understand are feeling much more upbeat about things. Is that true?
You understand wrong. Yeah, if ever you could categorise a Tottenham performance, the phrase "dog" comes to mind.
None of this is going to be able to go out. None of it. It'll be hello, some coughing, and then the final credits. Yeah, go on.
That sounds like an Ange presser. That does, doesn't it?
Sorry,
Chris. We are, mate. We were just truly woeful, weren't we?
Here we are, mate.
And again, we feels like all we do is rinse and repeat these podcasts, and we say the same old things. But again, last night, it was as evident as the night is day that we had no leadership on that pitch. We had no determination. We had no energy. We had no passion. We looked like 11 blokes you got from a pub saloon bar somewhere and said, fancy a kick around, let's go out and form a team.
Mate, that's doing Sunday league teams a disservice, mate. That really is.
I would
on a Sunday, mate.
I would refute that. I thought the steward that marshalled Ange away from the away fans showed great leadership skills.
So we look at the actual goal we conceded. And you've got to say, well, clearly we don't do anything on the training pitch, and that's becoming evident for all to see. But Dragassin's agent has been particularly vocal of recent months over if he doesn't play, leaves, he's enjoying himself now, he's going to stay. No comment on where his centre-back was for that goal, because we allowed the only 11 stone dripping wet 19-year-old to be completely unopposed at the near post to head past Fraser. And that was an absolute joke. Set pieces time and time again are our Achilles heel.
That was like watching a paper boy come round and steal your telly while you're midway through a film. The funniest thing for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, was in the press conference, and we get no lightness or laughter from Uncle Charlie Knackers. He was asked by one of these journalists to expand upon the direct feedback that he received from the audience, to which Ange replied, "Probably not for here, mate." I mean, the guy, they were screaming, "You fat bleep," at him at the top of their voices. I have never seen anything like it in my life. I've never seen anything like it in my life type incidents, and that is probably right up there. I have no idea why Ange or the voices in Ange's head thought it was a good idea for him to walk over and engage with people who were clearly going to use very primitive means of communication. And yeah, that phrase, "you fat bleep," I think the English language deployed there is you're never going to get, you're never going to get a counter. You're never going to be able to say anything back to them. So, for me, he has confirmed the mockery he's made of himself. We got that line the other week about I'll give you a punch on the nose, mate. No, I don't think he fight himself out of a wet paper bag. I think he's a fraud on many different levels. But last night, I think we saw him as a fraud on the level of a human being, which I know sounds really heavy and damning, but I just don't see. I don't see where he gets any credit points from anybody. I think he's weak, and I think it's over. I mean, I really do think it's over. I said I felt it was over weeks ago. I think we were, amongst all of the noises online, I think we were the ones that led the charge on this. I think we were very early to call that he was out of his depth. And anybody saying, "Oh yeah," well, guess what? Nobody gives a damn. The amount of nonsense we've had to listen to from people who didn't like the Italian, didn't like the Portuguese, didn't like this, didn't like that. Well, now I don't like the fat Australian guy. Okay, that's my position. I'm going to refer to him in the most pejorative terms from here on in. The gloves are off. I wish he'd take his gloves off. He talks a lot, but he does nothing, and that to me is the real mark of a loser. I don't. He's just a spineless jellyfish, and going over to a crowd and going, "You talking to me?" or whatever the hell he was saying. The most futile thing I've ever seen in my entire life as a football fan. So I just wanted to share with you. I'll pop this up on the screen for everybody else. But what was really damning is that if you look, we both watched the game. We all watched the game. But if you look at Spurs' expected goal chart, it just keeps on increasing, whilst Bournemouth's is a flat line. And it just sums up the pointlessness of that game. Obviously, we were missing a lot of players, but yeah, unfortunately, you're the manager. You're the manager. You have to manage it. What did you think of the squad? I mean, not necessarily the performances, but by all means, flesh it out. But what did you think of the team that he picked and the game that we got? Tony, any particular reasons to throw your TV at the screen there?
Well, there's, in some respects, I have a bit of sympathy for him because he's not got an awful lot to pick. You know, when you really go for it, that's all he's got. And I don't see that. I honestly don't see what he could have done any in terms of the actual performance. Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. The team, but he's only got a very, very limited squad to choose from. So I'm not really sure what else he could do with that bunch of monkeys. You know, in that respect.
I think the massive issue is that, and we have to use our words wisely here, but I think this whole Ange ball thing, be it a fancy or otherwise, I think it really doesn't work unless you have sufficiently decent footballers employing it. And the reason he's got away with it in Japan and in Scotland, I mean, I can't even believe we're still having to have this conversation. But in these Mickey Mouse leagues, the reason he's got away with it is because the plan itself, it kind of bumps up the IQ of the group, because the plan itself isn't, breathtaking, but it has some energy to it. And against all the dross sides that both those divisions produce, you can understand it would create a little bit of something, a little bit of a spark. But his second season of winning something, I don't know if he's still going to be here on Christmas Day. Is my feeling.
You called it a couple of weeks ago, H. You called it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
the players are just not coached. They're not coached.
No. I think he's got resignation writ through him like a stick of rock. If I'm blunt.
Just look in the last 24 hours with some of the high street gambling outlets. He's gone from 18-1 to 10-1 in the odds to be the next Premiership manager sacked. From a betting perspective, that is quite an increase.
Yeah, said, Chris, by Sunday that'll probably be evens.
Yeah, and what do you know? What particularly pissed me off last night, and it was when he had his headstrong moment when he thought he would face the baying mob who wanted blood from him face on, and he realised it was going badly. The one person who went to his aid and his defence was Jed Spence. Who put his hand on his shoulder and showed him a bit of support and reassured him. Yet Ange hasn't even given that lad the opportunity to play football. And last night, again, We put a 19-year-old kid, Archie Gray, who we've said time and time again is a central midfielder,
Yeah.
at right back. And we've got this lad who, explain why the club's rewarded Spence with a new contract. Why
Well,
have we given him a new contract if we're
that's
not going to play him?
that's not a riddle, is it? I mean, the reason that the Jed Spence thing is an issue, is a thing, is straightforwardly that Daniel Levy runs the club.
Yeah.
Like your drunk uncle drives the car. So why do we keep hitting other people's lawns and going over flower beds and nearly killing people walking their dogs? Because your drunk uncle's driving the car. That's the explanation. And the reason
And
Jed Spence is getting a contract against having no game time is because he was always bought from that situation that the drunk uncle's driving the car. So Daniel Levy has a business model, all these sort of micro business models, and Jed Spence is just another one of them. There's no interest in the football. He treats the football with nothing short of contempt. And so, but I found that fascinating. That as you say, he goes over. He has this stupid idea which he decides to put into action. I know I'll go and talk to people who are only going to say something disgusting to me that can't be broadcast on any television. And the guy that appears to be showing that little sort of pang of like, this is a bad thing. Come away. Is somebody he's treated with just disgracefully. I don't particularly like Jed Spence. I don't warm to him, right? I'm allowed to say that. I think he probably is a little bit hard work, but then I'm a little bit hard work. Everybody is. But he's a footballer and he's earning lots of money. Let's give him a go. As you say, there's a glaring opportunity there. It's almost like a gun against a normal person's head, that you're short of players and you've got a guy who wants to play, presumably, but then for him to be the guy that goes over and says no, leave it, don't do it, Terry, it's not worth it, he's embarrassing.
Getting back to the initial point about the team, what I couldn't believe is that we put Kulusevski out onto the left to play the left wide forward position, where his most effective games of the season were probably against Man City, where he was playing in the central role. And then Maddison, who had played on the left wing forward position previously, reverts to midfield.
Yeah.
And then you've got Porro, who ran himself into the ground and was absolutely shattered against Fulham on Sunday, replaced by Gray. And you think, look, Son has been absent all season. Even when he came off the bench, he did absolutely nothing apart from in the second phase of play, pass the ball to the opposition, who went gallivanting up the field. You think if you could do something, show some creativity. And again, I say you've got this young Will Lancashire. What if you're not going to play him against Fulham and you're not going to play him against Bournemouth, two of the lesser sides in the Premiership? You're never going to play him. But you've got to think about doing things differently. And we showed again and again and again yesterday, we have not got the players to play out from the back. That was farcical in the second half when we had that goal disallowed for offside, when Fraser Forster was trying to play it. And Alan Shearer, who was a quality footballer, knows football, commentating on Amazon, he was saying, this is ridiculous. Why are they doing it? They're just bringing trouble upon themselves. But we don't learn.
I think Ange is a very self-inflicted kind of guy, and I'm just desperately trying not to come out with all these sort of cliches, but I just don't see. I mean, I've seen people arguing the toss this morning online and saying, yeah, but if we sack the manager, that's never succeeded before. But I say I don't care for this guy as a human being, which is, I couldn't say anything more damning. But as a football coach, he's wanting. That's what he is. He's wanting.
Chelsea didn't have a problem sacking managers. Chelsea didn't have a problem sacking managers, did they?
The longer you leave it, the greater the damage becomes, and then it's irrecoverable. You can't pull back.
It's a lack of fundamentals. It's a lack of fundamentals in this game. You look at when they're attacking, they're receiving the ball with their backs to goal. And you can't attack if your back is towards goal. It's a lack of coaching fundamentals. It's ridiculous.
Did you see in that second half, Tony, when Bournemouth got the ball, pushed it upfield, and a doggy completely lost I think it was Evan Nielsen, and Evan Nielsen just runs past him as if he's not there, and it's almost like a doggy just stopped, gave up, stopped running, and Forster double palmed it away, I think.
Yeah,
and you just think it was like Zulu, hundreds, thousands of them, and you couldn't do anything about
it. with Dave from the Winchester going, oh, no.
It goes back to the central point about players. Now, it doesn't matter what squad you've got. If you're not coaching properly, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you've got the world's best 11. Yeah. If you can't coach them properly, and if you can't get them to understand what's and use them to the best of their abilities, and use the fundamentals, it doesn't matter what you do. You're still going to end up with what we're seeing, and that's the problem.
I think that a lot of what we've seen of Spurs under this manager, who had a 10-game new manager bounce, which worked very well for him, and then has been struggling, like a puppy taking its first dip in the river, getting used to the water. He really has been struggling, and I think that there are fundamental things, as you say, there at play, basic stuff that he just simply isn't doing, and it's undermining everything he does. And I fear for the guy, actually. I mean, I made the joke about the wife finding him in the garage, but we obviously can't joke about things like that because that's deeply unpleasant. But I do worry for the guy, and I wonder if it might not be a good move to get Wyan in and just make a clean break of it, because I just have a feeling, I really do, and this is all pop psychology, but I'm just. There, I've said it. I'm concerned about the guy. I am. All gags to one side. He's completely and utterly out of his depth. As I say, there's I do get it. I do understand it. There is a difference between having a stupid idea and actually actioning it. And I know in the scheme of things, it's not huge, but him going over to the crowd last night, that's like hand me my bottom on a big silver plate. There was never going to be any good come of that scenario. And a tough guy, right? Let me tell you, a tough guy doesn't walk over to a mob of several hundred people who are shouting, F off, you fat bleep. No, nobody in their right mind who's got anything about them goes near that situation.
They're waiting in the car park for him after the game.
With a pool ball in a sock. That's how that's how you deal with people like that.
Isn't it funny? Afterwards, after the game, so in the post-match commentary, you had Les Ferdinand turn around saying, "Why was he doing that? Why was he doing that?" And the other two were going. I mean, I don't even want to get started on the other two, but Jermaine and Edge. But we're going into a whole different argument there, which I don't think we really want to go down for today.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
But he was absolutely spot on. He was absolutely spot on there. What are you doing that? You've got no right to do it. If you're that upset, if you're that peed off with what's gone on in front of you, you turn around with a face like thunder, get down there and start kicking hair dryers and God knows what.
Yeah. No, it was. I mean, I hate to sort of dwell upon it, but I think it was a huge thing that he got wrong, and I think it told us lots of things about him which we didn't really want to know. It was almost like he got drunk and started discussing what goes on in the bedroom with his wife. I really don't want to hear it under any circumstances. And it was like just in that fantasy thing where you say to him, mate, just shut up, stop talking, have a coffee, let's get you in a taxi. This was the same business with him at the crowd, and he just made himself look preposterous. And I think it's done for him. I genuinely do. And the press are all over it. It's on every back page this morning, and they're on it not because there was a bit of a to and a froer, but he's trying to gloss over that. Probably not for here. That's because you had your pants pulled down, mate. That's why it's not for here.
Maybe he felt inspired by Eric Dyer, and if people say some horrible, nasty things at Chelsea on Sunday, he's going, well, he won't be able to get his leg over one of the seats, but he'll try and attack the stand and have it out with the baying mob.
It'll look like one of the toys. You used to go to Hamleys, and there'd be one of the toys where the battery had worn out, and
Oh,
the little teddy or whatever the robot was against the side of the box.
and
Sort
it'll
of
be
going, gink.
plucked from the Bane mob by Rick Arlison, who everybody's favourite superhero.
Unbelievable, yeah, Birdman. But I
Honestly,
mean,
and the bench as well. It's looking like all the all the back room, the assistant coaches. It was like hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, wasn't it?
Well, there was
Absolutely
so
clueless.
little animation and
Honestly,
interest that you look at him and it's stereotypical. He will be looking at the floor, shaking his head, have his hands on his hips, and you think these young kids, young men, looking to the touchline for inspiration, looking for somebody
yeah,
to raise them. And the difference was last weekend, Marco Silva for Fulham, when they went one down, he's there giving it
know,
loads. He
yeah.
changes to the back five. He's pointing. He's telling him, "You get in there." They got a good result last night, incidentally, 3-1.
Yeah, they're
But
the they're the team in form, aren't they?
our bloke is the polar opposite. You look to him for intervention, you come away wanting to kill yourself.
I think you're looking down at the grass. I call him the grass whisperer now, because you're looking down. Oh bloody hell, mate! What am I going to do now? I got a bloody clue, mate. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
I don't think this week is a good week to release new nicknames for Ange. I think there's going to be a surf eat, and it might be difficult to be heard above the noise of the crowd. He. The trouble is, and this is another one of those things. But the trouble is, you're up against a lot of stupid people who are prepared to give anything involving Spurs a second chance, a third chance, and make excuses. And his body language is disgusting. Now he's supposed to be a football coach of a club that's worth X million quid or whatever. You don't see it. There's no hint of it. He if you look at people, right, you look at certain people, and it influences the outcomes of situations. I'm just thinking myself, and I had a situation with my health, with my chest, the sarcoidosis thing that I had, and I got nowhere with the medical people, absolutely nowhere. And then, like, the Sky party, and this guy comes wandering up the thing. He looked like a CEO, had a proper suit on, proper shirt and tie, been to the barbers recently, and he put his hand out, shook my hand like a real man, and told me that he was an expert, a lecturing professor in the field of this particular thing. And after that, he could have said anything to me. I was completely putty in his hands because I realised that I was dealing with a heavyweight. I realised I was dealing with somebody who didn't really give a damn, was going to go and speak to a 6-year-old child next. And you look at Ange, and he just doesn't give off any vibe. I joked about it before. He looks like a bus driver.
I think
he's been horribly exposed, and it's all down to the level of the Premier League. It's all down to the level.
The other thing to consider is you're an ambassador for your brand when you're a Premiership manager. You are in the public view, and you've got to say, what are those above him? Like this Johan Lang, he needs calling out, because I think he must be one of the most ineffective sporting directors in the Premiership. Villa's stock rose when he left. He has single-handedly brought in footballers about as effective as a chocolate tea cozy, and he is his boss. He's his governor.
Single-handedly bumped their share price by catching a bus out of town.
Yeah.
No,
But
listen. You know what I'm going to say about
weekly basis.
I tell you what he's doing on a weekly basis. He's covering his arse. He's a LinkedIn hire, and anybody watching who's struggling with, what does that mean? That if you have seen people on LinkedIn, and I removed myself from LinkedIn, talking about fish and chips or football or just normal things that people talk about, they don't speak properly. Oh yes, that was most fortuitous, and moving forward, I hope to have fish and chips in the near future myself. They're incredibly anally uptight, weird people. He's a LinkedIn hire. You just can't imagine him in anything but a 2-button blue suit. I would imagine that. I mean, they're just corporate mouthpieces. And when it comes to it, Daniel will go into work this morning. Will have gone into work this morning, absolutely furious, and looked at Lang on his piece of paper on his laptop or whatever, and thought to himself, "Well, there's nothing there I can hang him on. He's done everything that I asked." And he made a good contribution to conference calls we've had recently. There's nothing there. And that's what those guys do. They're virtually bulletproof. It's like the what's his name? The guy that's going to be doing the stadium spiel, the selling, that's going to Chelsea. I mean, his job description. I always forget his name. Klein. I think it was Todd Klein.
Todd Klein. Yeah.
But that guy's job description was getting the advertising for the naming rights money in, and he didn't do it. But he's a LinkedIn hire. So, because he's crossed all the T's and dotted the I's, his job, his resume, like I said, when Daniel looks on the laptop, doesn't see a burning skip like we see when we look at Ange. He sees a guy that kind of did everything but didn't really get the job done, but it hasn't damaged his stock, because he'll go to Chelsea, they'll give him a nice fat salary, and he'll get a deal with them. And the difference, you see, isn't Todd Klein and isn't Chelsea, it's the fact that you don't have Daniel Levy on the premises. I nearly got involved in an argument online yesterday in one of those new Facebook groups I joined.
Really?
Yeah. And this guy was saying, oh, Daniel does so well and doesn't take any money out of the business. And I said, I can't argue with you, because I'm not having a fight with a guy with one arm. And that's what these people are. They handicap themselves. This is a guy who delivered a stadium over budget, over timelines. I mean, it was more. It cost far too much money given what he quoted, and then he delivered it so late, and that in itself cost us more money. Yet he still took an enormous bonus, and people are saying, "Yeah, but he doesn't take any money out of the business."
It's the highest paid chief executive in the Premiership.
But where is all the money from all these corporate sponsors we've got at the footer of the homepage? I mean, people are just happy just to accept anything. And they're posting on the social media account, oh, here's a picture of little Jimmy at the training ground or whatever it might be, brought to you in association with Bic Biros or whatever it might be. Where's the money? Where's the money? And the answer is it's being absolutely spaffed by a guy who doesn't like football.
They're missing the point anyway. The central conceit of what Levy's doing is not to build a football club, worthy of the name. It's to build a business empire that he can sell off for shed loads of money.
And he's been very successful at doing so.
And brilliantly, absolutely. No one can ever complain about his performance there. He's probably one of the top guys in the country at doing that, I would imagine. But certainly from a footballing perspective, it's just, the chalk and cheese doesn't even get into it. And we didn't even get a cheese room in the process.
I wouldn't be surprised if he would like the same model that Man United have adopted, where he sits in the wings, develops the brand and the commercials like the Glazers, and then he was to hand over footballing operations to a Dave Brailsford type or a Jim, whatever his name is.
It's not in his DNA though, Chris, is it? It's not his DNA.
He can't understand football, doesn't understand football.
He doesn't understand football. He's a micromanager as well. He refuses to let people do their jobs.
You've got it in one. And that was the line that betrayed what you were saying, Chris, about this business of letting somebody else take the reins. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. He is the guy. I mean, I made the comment before about the drunk uncle driving the car, but he is the guy who simply won't relinquish the wheel. And he knows in his heart of heart, he knows he would have sacked him by now, because that's the running joke, because that's the truth. But he still won't hand over the wheel and let the person who is sober drive the car. And he's just bent out of shape. He gets up in the morning and he makes a ton of money for ENIC and all its little subsidiaries and blah blah blah. But he is the guy, and I've made this joke before, but it's true. He is the guy who will be sat there next to his wife on a match day, and girl will walk past with a hot dog and a shake, and he'll say, very, very well with those cups. Massive difference. And wife will say, what do you mean? She goes, we're making an extra 17 pence a box on that particular cup. And he will know all of this. And if you don't understand the importance of what I've just said in that remark, this is the devil in the detail with him. he will know that he has made an extra 17 pence per what's in one of these boxes of paper cups, 300, 400, and he knows the minutiae of the money, and that's great, but it's heading a little bit on the spectrum, and that's the worry. That's why, that's part and parcel, by the way, that he won't hand over the wheel, because a normal person would say, yeah, this is good, and I like being known as the driver, but this guy who can drive cars can do a much better job than me. I'll let him drive. That's what a normal person would do, but he's not normal. And I fear for what's going to happen. Like I say, I fear. I'm being serious here. I fear for Ange's health, and I mean that. I don't say that for a shock effect, but I do fear for what's going to happen to Spurs, because we know what's going to happen. Daniel will start recruiting again, and anybody who doesn't understand the misery, and this is part of the thing, because you would normally say, why doesn't he let somebody else drive? Surely his day is going to be improved by not having all that comes with him being a poor driver. But he doesn't care. He just thinks it's like I say, it's back to that LinkedIn thing. He will cross the T's, dot the I's, and recruiting is never easy, blah, 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 blah. And he will just soldier and muddle through and end up with another guy that doesn't work. And that's the reality. Ange was at least fourth choice, I think. The more I've dwelt upon it, I think probably fourth might even be ambitious.
I'd heard eighth.
But that's where we're heading. We're heading into another recruitment fiasco.
You know what's going to happen, don't you? You know what's going to happen. He's going to sack Ange because he's 10th or 12th or however we're down the pecking order we will be, and he'll be happy to just get someone who gets us up into 6th or 7th place because he'll consider that a good season.
Well, I mean, you heard the thing that came out the other week. I can't remember who it was. It was somebody from the back room or whatever, and they were saying about the way that the bonuses were structured, that you only got paid for beating the big teams. The whole thing is slanted against football. It's slanted toward the ENIC business model. And, you know, you can only imagine the mood inside that camp when you beat Manchester City, but you're incapable of realising what a cheap win it was. You know, what a thin and cosmetic win it was. I mean, there's still people this morning online saying, yeah, but what happened at the City? Why can't we do that every week? You're not understanding it. That's the way that club is set up. They don't particularly want to stare into the darkness. You know?
Yeah, but that win, when you look at it on the face of it, yeah, it was a great win in terms of the actual quality of the performance. But it was on the back end of City losing to Bournemouth, losing to Brighton.
Yeah.
You know, you can't sort of put it up on a pedestal and say, yeah, we've arrived. I've seen some jokes going around. To be fair, they're quite funny about that was our cup. We won the Man City Cup, and you know, fair play to them for that. I totally agree with them on that thing. It is a bit of a joke. But we can't laud that performance as something special and as something that we should be aiming for. And I'm not being disrespectful to Brighton or Bournemouth because they're excellently run clubs, so they do very, very well. But when they've beaten them as well, we're just in the same category as them, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to have to take back your Christmas present now, as I bought you the commemorative edition video of us beating Man City 4-0. But you're obviously an ungrateful bastard, so it's going back.
Oh mate, you didn't give me you weren't going to buy me the collector's edition with with the poster and all the special features.
I actually went old school and bought you the VHS edition.
I heard they were doing a thing with the cover, and it actually had real hair on some of the players' faces. It's almost like being in the same stadium. That's what the tagline was.
Oh dear. Oh, collector's edition, sponsored by Getir.
Comes with its own clean-up tale, but the thing is, I mean, people are discussing this morning online, and I'm seeing them go. I mean, not on our Substack, thank goodness, because it's the adult section. But people on Facebook and on X, and they're saying, oh, but who do we replace him with? And they're completely missing the point. You know, I mean, this is like you've got a patient with cancer or something awful, and it just discussing what shirt to put him in. It's not going to make any difference.
And just digging a hole, and it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And with any luck, he'll soon return down under.
I just can't believe the biggest problem we've got. I think is the
guy.
fact he continues.
So
sorry, you went out
Chelsea
there
is
for a second.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just nipped down the shops. Chelsea up next. What? How bad do you think that's going to be, lads? How bad do you think it's going to be?
We'll probably beat them.
Yeah,
No, we won't.
Yeah.
No, I know we won't. That's a very, very, very tongue-in-cheek throwaway comment there.
Yeah, I'm a bit kind of speechless because, like I say, I don't see how it's going to kind of right itself. And the only thing I can see, and the trouble is, you get this momentum in football, this sort of heat, and finer minds than I had pointed out, over the last weeks, that once this sort of process starts going, there's an inevitability about it. I mean, look at, like, for example, at Manchester United. Ten Hag was going to be sacked any minute for weeks, possibly months. That dragged on, and because they've, I think, been through so many managers, and again, the LinkedIn thing, his win rate wasn't actually terrible. There is a club that's nobody is fit to walk in the shadow of Sir Alex, whereas at Spurs there's none of that. And Ange's win rate is who cares? It's not very good. I think somebody mentioned yesterday on the Substack that it's that Timothy Sherwood's win rate was better, and so was AVB's.
So when they did the post-match interviews last night, they interviewed that Dean Hughson who scored the winner for Bournemouth, and it said to him, "So what's your aspiration this season?" "Oh, we just want to avoid relegation, just as they've bypassed Tottenham in the league." So we've got one guy saying, "Yeah, we just want to stay up. We want to retain our position in the Premiership." And then we got another guy who says, "No, I always win things in my second season." Well, unless it's £5 on next week's national lottery, there is no likelihood of anything footballing related being won this season by that guy.
Are there any players who we can call out? I'm just trying to. I sound like I'm filling time here, but I don't see the point in constantly discussing Ange, because I see him as a complete figure of fun who I'm worried about, as from one human being to another. Are there any players that you feel? I mean, I think they've been managed so badly, though. I mean, Kulusevski playing out of position again, Sonny on the slide because Mother Nature has handicapped him. I mean.
None of the players are developed. They're all getting worse. Last night, no fault of his own, we've got a £65 million centre forward who doesn't look like he's going to score anytime soon. And with being praiseworthy of the pressing ability and running into the channels of Solanke, but when you pay £65 million for a centre forward, guess what? He needs to score goals.
Yeah.
He isn't. We could have played until next Christmas. We wouldn't have scored last night. Everything was easy about that performance. And it really pisses me off. And I've said it time and time again. Højbjerg last night would have added to that midfield considerably. We'd have had somebody who had a bit of bite around him, a bit of spite, and actually was a limited footballing ability, but would get hold of that ball and push it forward. Last night, Basuma, terrible. You looked at
terrible game.
Papa Sarr, terrible game. But you looked at that front three, none of them ever looked like scoring. And then you bring on, what was the point of bringing on Timo Werner? But again, there was no logic or reason to the in-game changes or at what point they were made. And you were thinking, I've never been so detached from the football club I support. I've never seen a squad so paper thin. The reality is Van der Ven is the only player that we've got that walks into a Man City, a potential Liverpool, or one of the elite clubs. And there's not one single player in that squad at the moment. Think about in the days gone by when we were watching Van der Vaarts, we were watching Gareth Bales, we were watching Ginolas, we were watching people who got us out our seat. They got us out of the seat and we were like, wow, they bring something to this team. There's no thrill, there's no excitement, there's no innovation, there's no creativity. And for all this nonsense that Ange said recently, without going back to him, about I'd rather entertain. That's who we are, mate. That's disappeared, and the quality of the football is just absolutely gash. It is absolutely terrible.
We had 10 games that I think everybody in the room would agree were you could see something there. 10 games which they promised, they threatened, and since then it's gone off the ball. It's just been a farce. We've been baffled with bullshit by the fan base telling us this, telling us that, telling us the other, all on some fifth hand cobblers about something he once did in Japan, something he once did in Scotland. But you're right. There's no star names. There's no box office attractions. And then we've got Ben Davies has done his hamstring. Why are we even having a conversation about such a deadbeat?
Well, this is the thing.
Whilst we've been talking, 3 to 4 weeks, they're suggesting he's gone for scans. He's probably not available for Sunday. So we're walking into a game against a team high flying in where Chelsea's second, without Ben Davies, without Romero, and without Van der Ven. Leaves our only fit centre half at the club, who is Dragerson, who is failing to impress. He is not what we thought we were getting. How can we be going up against an informed Chelsea team with an assemblée of nonsense?
With an assemblée? I don't know where they get these assemblées from. Tony, have you heard an assemblée recently? I mean, what do you think? What do you think of our back line? I mean, is there any hope? Have you got your boots? How far are you from the station?
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. No, there's a lot of. I remember at the time, and even now, people are going on about how dreadful the football was under Conte and Mourinho, and I don't think it was necessarily that dreadful.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
But by God, they could organise.
Yeah, well, that's precisely. Just jump in there. That's what you're actually. You've in a nutshell. The football wasn't particularly edifying. I'll go that far. Because I was never a guy who said, no, I don't like this because he's, and then just invent something. But what they were doing, and they were revolving around Eric Dyer. Let's not lose sight of that. They were doing some unwelcome but fundamentally healthy decision making in order to keep structure and all the rest of it together. But at the end of every game, what we heard from both coaches was, we need to improve. Now, if you say that once as a sort of throwaway comment, like you go for a meal and you say, yeah, it was okay, but I think the kitchen needs to improve. What you're actually talking about is firing one man, installing another, and making sure that his boss is spending more on the vegetables. Because that's the only way you can improve the output of a kitchen. And it's the same with a football team. You can't improve players. What you must do is you must train them, you must coach them. But you can't coach. I mean, I could take, not being rude, but I could take young Christopher out here onto a training pitch and we'd be there a long time while I was trying to turn him into, Lothar Matthäus or Lionel Messi. I'd be there a long
warned me about men like you, H. I would.
Yeah, well, she was right. I've got to say,
especially if you have a bag of sweets. Danger.
Listen, mate. You hit my age, and you don't pull your punches anymore. You just say, I've got kinks, and I'm bringing them to the party. This is what I do. There's no pretense. But this is. But you can hope that Chris improves and becomes Lionel Messi, but that isn't the answer. The answer is you say, thanks very much for playing, Chris. Enjoy the sweets. I'll catch up with you when the police are around. And you go and buy a player who hopefully is as good as Lionel Messi.
Well, the thing is, it comes
that's
back
what
to
we're
the
up
same
against.
thing. It's that again, we can, to play the sort of, I'm not going to use, I'll say it, but I'm not going to use it in that sense, Ange ball, but it's just a high pressing game. It's what Pep has done for years. Yeah? So there's no mystery in that. It's not like he's come from the J Leagues and from Scottish football with this revolutionary way to play football. It's just what Pep has done for years, and good teams have been able to do. To do that, you need at least a squad where you've got 3 levels of depth in it to do it.
Yeah,
because you knacker the crap out of players. They can only do that for 10 or 11 games at a time. You need a bit of rotation, bringing players in and out to be able to make that sort of football work. And we barely have a first 11. So,
And
you
the
know, we are,
and the
that's where we are.
and the real danger is we're running these players into the ground. They look mentally and physically fatigued. We've got Chelsea on Sunday, then we've got Rangers in Europe on the following Thursday. Then we got a league game, and then we've got the quarterfinal of the cup. Well, we're tying our hopes on potentially the League Cup, FA Cup, or Europa. That's not going to happen. So we're going to go into a quarterfinal, which is probably one of our biggest games of the season, with our players absolutely knackered and spent forces against a reinvigorated Man United side whose coach has only arrived 5 games into the process. Everybody's on trial at that club because he's rotating and changing the starting 11 for every game so far. That they're not going to find it overly difficult to play for us and beat us in that game. But our squad has been criminally abused and neglected, and we've just not got any options. We've got no options at centre back. We've spoke time and time again. Our fullbacks are rubbish. Yet, if you go put Spence on the bench, play him. Reguilon, not featured for the club in 2.5 years. Do you know what? I'm at the point I don't care anymore. Give him a run out.
Yeah.
Give him a run out. What is there to lose? He's going to walk away on a free anyway.
Yeah.
In midfield. In the midfield. If these kids are old enough to be on the bench, perhaps they might be good enough. Just give them some time because they can't be any worse than the senior pros that are going through the motions. But you look at that side, they've lost complete faith in the guy. There's nobody out there who seems to enjoy playing football at the moment. They all look mentally shot to pieces.
He doesn't.
No confidence in what they're doing.
He doesn't grasp anything you've just said. I've got a mate of mine who's Aston Villa, and I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and he said, "I don't know how I've got myself into this situation." I was laughing. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Part of my brain doesn't work right." He said, "I hadn't let it sink into my head that we were playing well in Europe and we were playing well in the league, and now our form in the league has dropped off, nosedived, and we can beat Bayern Munich, but we can't come home and beat anybody in the league." And I said to him, "Well, footballers get tired, you know, and there's the mental side of it and all this sort of thing." And he said, "Yeah, but I should have been aware of this." And I said, "So what's Tottenham's excuse?" And he goes, "Well, you don't have a starting 11 to start with. We've got this odds and sods of a few good players, like you say, Mickey in the back, you know, so and so in the middle, and there's nobody up front. All of a sudden, there's like nobody up front, and it's all kind of make and men do. But the coach is unaware of this. The coach doesn't understand it.
But Kulu is. You listen to Kulu's comments.
Feel sorry for him. He seems a genuinely decent bloke, and they're going to get to a point where he's going to be saying thanks, but no thanks. I want out of this mess.
He knows what's going on. He's obviously got to have
That's a very good point.
Preservation. He knows what's going on. He knows what's needed, but he can't come out and say it because he's got to have a bit of self-preservation. And I get that.
You see, the thing with Kulu, the thing with Kulu as well, for me, and it's not just because I'm grumpy, so I feel this sort of affinity with him, but I don't think he's part of that gang that do the finger clicking tricks and the putting the t-shirt over their head and all the little hijinks that they shoot for the fans for the social media side of things.
The old Madison dart celebration. All that
I mean, for example, I mean, I don't know, but we mentioned Madison, and what am I going to say? He's turned his box into the bedroom of a 15-year-old child. You don't need to see the psychiatric report on that guy. He's not that bright. He's a little bit dangerous, you know. And I don't think Kulu's part of that gang. I really don't.
How about that video I shared with you both the other day, where Son showed more leadership in telling Brennan Johnson to stand forward and smile for an official photograph than I've ever seen him show on the pitch in recent months.
Yeah,
we just ridicule ourselves to reach out to the cash-rich fans, and we're becoming a joke. If we put as much
I think
time
we've become a joke a long time ago.
Yeah. If only we put as much interest and energy into on pitch endeavours, because we're just absolutely shit. And the
Spursy is as Spursy does, and it's an easy target.
And we're only 6 points off Everton, who were one of the worst teams I've ever seen when they turned up at the Tottenham Stadium this earlier this season, and we put 4-5 past them. And there were people saying, "Oh, Everton are still in contention for a relegation battle." Well, if they are, by proxy, that brings us into that equation and that conversation, because on
So,
recent form and statistics alone, we are going nowhere fast.
so let me posit this idea with you. Has Enoch eaten itself? And if it has, because like everything we've said has been fulfilled, has kind of come true. The fact that the culture is one of a massive loser, somebody who doesn't have sex, can't even speak to other people, right? This club has become the man in charge, and that's what the face of a business does. I mean, look, back to the retail thing, but if you ever went into British Home Stores in the 80s, I'm talking, when it was trading at perhaps its worst, it was a horrible shop to go into. When it was British Home Stores, the sort of post-war thing, it was a big deal. It was a big hitter, but it wasn't in our time, because that was the culture of the weasel that was running the bloody empire. And this is the situation we're in with Spurs. So if Enoch it appears to have eaten itself, what happens? Are they going to press a button and sell up? Because I can't see this carrying on without damaging that end goal, which is to be a top 5 Deloitte Money League side. Because they're clearly, I think, in the next year, they're going to go up to 7th, at the worst case scenario, just because of all the cash that's pouring in.
Tottenham is the mouthpiece for the investment vehicle. It
Yeah.
is the thing that's got worldwide attraction. It's a recognised brand, regardless of what we think. He
Yeah,
has
yeah,
never, and for one moment, cared about what happens on the pitch. But if you
No.
lose that badge on your shirt that says FA Premier League, you are in danger of losing considerable revenue, and your valuation of your 4 billion business suddenly becomes 2 billion. And the 2 billion is based on infrastructure only. It's your Lady Gaga, it's your Formula One racing cars, it's your Tyson Fury fights, it's all of the add-ons. Nothing is to do with the footballing side. And if you're not in the
No.
Premiership, is that going to impact on your South Koreans hopping on South Korean Airways and coming over to watch games? He has got to be, we've said this time and time again, but in my opinion, he is heading into last chance saloon territory. And if he gets it wrong, the Americans, the Saudi Arabians, those from the Middle East, they're not going to want to buy a club in the Championship, for Christ's sake. It's about mine's bigger than yours amongst these oligarchs and these
There's no two
billionaires.
ways. There's no two ways about it. The Championship is a complete disaster, and just from the simple business perspective, that you can't charge the same money to see Lady Gaga play at a Premier League stadium as you can at a Championship stadium. That's not the way the world works. You go to see certain artists at the Royal Albert Hall, which is why you pay the Royal Albert Hall money. When you go to your local arts centre, you pay a different ticket price.
If you think, if you think, right, playing in the Premier League, that how knackered the players are, and with this style of football, you go into the Championship where it's Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, all the time.
Yeah.
They'll be gone.
Having a 62,500 stadium in the Championship, which is predominantly going to be 50% empty every week, that's not going to fly, is it?
No.
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of people would go just to have a laugh. I mean, it's not an expensive comedy ticket, is it?
When was the last time we signed a big name who sold shirts, got people into the stadium, and further lifted and elevated the positioning of Tottenham? We haven't done it for years, but he's looking for
that young Korean chappie, isn't it? Isn't that young Korean chappie? Is that meant to be that?
He's here next week, isn't
he? Yeah. And you talk about this brand, and we are courting and flirting with any Doris that might drop her pants for us and invest in the club. Yeah, what is the most important feature for any business? And I say that working for a blue chip entity, it's reputation. It's reputational damage. And the continued malaise on the field and the continued Paddy Powers taking the piss out of us, which I find very funny, I've got to say. All you're doing is eroding the brand. You're dissolving the club. And anybody who's got anything about them says, when we were kids, obviously my experiences were a little bit closer than yours. When
I'm
people
listening
took the
very
piss-
carefully to this, Christopher.
when people took the piss out of you in the playground,
Yeah,
you laughed about it, but you walked back from school
yeah,
thinking, I didn't like that. So how can you be a billionaire owning a football club and all your mates are taking the piss out of you, saying, well, they've got the iconic stadium, yet they've filled it with furniture from the IKEA, and they're all having a
yeah,
giggle. They got a trophy cabinet. It's got 3 inches of dust in it. Ever
yeah.
since the Audi Cup, they've not put anything in there.
Well, what's
And
that?
there comes a point.
What's it? Is it we're now the only club that has a pejorative adjective, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah,
like crazy.
Dame Julie Welch, as
Yeah,
ever,
yeah.
absolutely hit a home run there. We've got an adjective to describe us, which is a pejorative. I mean, you couldn't make it up.
So you've
No, I
got
mean,
to.
I heard this is totally specious, malicious, whatever, call it what you want. But I heard that Daniel Levy had problems in the Jewish community with the business of people looking down at him.
Well, when you're
you know, there was
5'2", when you're 5'2" in height, that's often the case. I'd be
Look-
looking down at you at 6'3". Yeah.
I want the rest of my change. Fuck off. but I think that, like I say, I think Enoch has eaten itself, and everything that we've said that's unflattering or uncomplimentary about the thing is coming to fruition, which is hilarious because so many people have decided to die on that hill and tell everybody that Daniel Levy's a swell guy and we're going in the right direction. But another managerial car crash on his shift. Another guy, he's employed, and this is the thing we always come back to. He's employed, and he comes out and he says, "Oh, it's unfortunate that didn't work."
I'll give you another example.
You
Down the road from
hired
us,
him, you nitwit.
down the road from us, there's a club called West Ham, whose last manager, David Moyes, bought them something called a trophy. They went along the line of, let's bring in Lopetegui. It's been a disaster. There's strong rumours coming out of that club that he will be gone. And I'm not going to call West Ham a big club because the Dildo Brothers always live in memory. But they are acting like a big club. And
Porn
that's something
again.
that's what we've got to learn to do. If it's not working, walk away from it. If you're in a relationship with a Doris and you don't get on with her, you don't stay with her for life. You say, thanks for the memories, love, out the door. We need to do the same.
And there's our next manager. I guarantee it's the sort of move Levy would make, isn't it? You know, I'll get sacked, like someone sacks Lopetegui. Yeah, we'll have him. He looks like actually he was just miscast.
Yeah,
actually, in this point in time, I'd take David Moyes every day of the week. I can tell 100%, you, at least we'd play some proper football with a bloke who knows how to set a team up.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, the misery. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I wish it could have lasted longer.
What, the Catherine Bates film or the whole Tottenham experience?
No. I'm talking about.
That's very deep, Chris. That's very deep. That is.
I know your obsession with men being kidnapped and held in cabins. After all, you're sitting in one yourself.
It takes Stockholm syndrome to a whole new level, doesn't it? You know?
I think while I was pondering what to say there, Christopher crept in and whacked my ankles with a sledgehammer. But to continuing the theme, but the misery of Daniel's hunt, his goose chase for a manager, after Mourinho went, and we had Nuno and we got what's his name in. I just think, I mean, we had every manager who was, half decent in the papers, nervously sort of going, not for me, thanks. Nobody wants to know, and this next hunt is going to be particularly painful, and a lot of commentators have said that.
Graham Potter will take it in a heartbeat. Graham Potter will take it in a heartbeat.
Do you think so?
I think so, because he'd get a massive payday.
Think he would. Yeah, but
I think he would.
Took such money from Chelsea when they put him on gardening leave for 27 years. He can afford to be a bit picky.
I mean, the thing is, mate, he's not actually allowed to take a job due his contractual agreements until 2039. He's not allowed to back out.
All it tells us again is that Levy doesn't know football, but he surrounds himself with people who know even less than him. And whoever his confidants are, and whoever his critical friends and mentors are, they are telling him a right load of old Tom Cobblers, because he would never dream of picking up the phone to Harry Redknapp and saying, Harry, I'm in the brown smelly stuff. Who's the guy to get me out of this mess?
I had an assembly with
an assembly, just for your information, H, a collection of resources or people.
An assembly, an assembly with a confidant. And I have to tell you, I quite enjoyed it.
The way forward job gets.
I look as if my head's about to explode. So
it's like the thing is with this club, or everything that's going on, it's like being in a toxic relationship. You can't help, there are parts that you love and you wish it was better, and you don't want to pull away from it. But it's getting harder and harder to just think that way, just think about staying in it, because what is there to look forward to?
And if you ever let your true feelings known at Tottenham, what do? Turn up the volume on the speakers.
Yeah, that's about the most sensible thing that's been said on this meandering mess of an episode.
What, turning up the speakers?
Right, number of people decided to speak a new language. Oh dear, my blood pressure. Dear me.
We can get you tablets for that, don't worry.
I think that might work out. That might defeat the object of the other tablets I'm on. That's the concern.
Don't take them too early.
I can't sit right. I don't know what's going on here. Right. So, do we have anything else? Anything else for the good folks at home before we go? Because I mean, it's just doom and despair, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
For the day, as we're talking about modern times, inclusivity and all that sort of stuff. I too was once a man trapped in a woman's body. Then I was born.
You've destroyed Tony there. He's actually lost the will to speak. Sad.
Well,
character.
Similar to our defenders, they've lost the will and ability to defend a football.
It's my hamstring. That's what's.
I was struggling at assemblage, but there you go.
And on that bombshell,
aren't we going for predictions? Let's not. It's all.
Yeah, no, we're going.
No,
I tell you what I've been looking forward to is this the bit after I say, don't forget, keep it Tottenham, and then we can do the rude bit, which everybody loved last time. We should have just run from that from the beginning.
Well, we could have just done a rude bit special, couldn't we? It could have just been a whole hour of it, couldn't it?
Yeah.
We could have labelled it Ange Gets Fisted. That would have got some. Welcome to another edition of Cunt Club. And on my left. Funny enough, you won't be the first person to call me that.
Is that an assemblage of cunts?
Yeah.
I can only tell you that in the absolute confidence.
I'll tell you what, YouTube are going to hit you big time, buddy.
No, because we trim this bit off and give it to the gang, and YouTube get the squeaky clean stuff. Once I've obviously bleeped over all the obscenities.
Oh, do you do what they do with the censors? You give them the censored bit, and then you go and release the other one anyway, sort of thing.
Exactly. This goes out, but it goes out to the people that like to self-harm when they're drinking rum
or watching Tottenham play.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly that, isn't it?
So
actually, what do we think? Some actors in to appear on this show in the future, so we could have some plants, some rational, sane, sensible people, and we could have one of them there wearing a chirpy hat. Just you
saw Matt Hayes riling against the people that were having nasty words to say against Postecoglou.
And I saw the world turn back on him.
Wow, what a naive young man.
Well, he's a virgin. What would you expect?
Well, I'm not sure if he is intactum, but just because he takes it up the chufter, he thinks everybody's going to be nice to him.
It's naivety on a grand scale, isn't it? It really is. I mean, people have paid good money. They spend fortunes going to games. They travel. It's a passion for them.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's getting his air miles out.
But the thing is,
this class only fella.
I get this thing about you shouldn't be abusing people, and I understand that. I do understand that. But the point is that has all come about is ultimately it's his fault because of what he's doing. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, you can't turn around and say to somebody, oh, you shouldn't be shouting at him. Well, he's the direct reason why people are shouting at him.
And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is the grim reality that he is a fat cunt.
Yeah,
I mean, let's have it right. I mean,
thankfully, the demographic of viewers to this show have our same likenesses and views. So back in my day, women had vaginas, and the world was such an easier place.
Welcome to 1976, and our host this evening is
I was
Mr.
born
Chris
in 78.
Oh, that explains a lot. Right,
Yeah.
I am going to go and do something that isn't this. I don't even do things I like this long.
So predictions. I'm going to go 5-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, I can see us getting absolutely tonked by Chelsea. Just simply on the basis that this
we will never see Fraser Forster again.
Fraser Forster last seen shimming his fat arse out of a changing room on the.
All we need for him to do is get
Chelsea
injured in
High
that game. All we need for him to do is get injured in that game, and we
Yeah.
are really up the paddle.
Yeah.
We are really up the creek with the old
What,
paddle,
what,
isn't it? Honestly.
what we'll have then is we'll have our goalkeeper will be almost as a big of a competition winner as our coach.
Well, our next goalkeeper will clearly be Archie Gray.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yep.
100%.
Play out
If
position.
Harry could do it, then our utility man Archie's got it in him.
Versatility is the name of the game. Versatility is the new normal.
And I hope the links to Ralph Harris get disclosed publicly, as I've heard on good knowledge that him and Ange were a thing back in the day.
Really?
I haven't.
Wow.
I just lied about that.
I was going to say that's how complete fiction starts, isn't it?
That's how libel action commences.
Yeah. Nice house you're in there, Chris. I hope it's in the wife's name.
Not much longer.
Is that the sort of fiction like where it's a project and stuff like that? You know, is it that sort of fiction? Exactly that, isn't it? It's just like
that's
please
science
stop
fiction.
with that. Stop with that fucking nonsense. It's
But this
never been a project.
But this is what's going to happen. We're going to get rid of this joker, this tubby funster, and we'll be saddled with somebody else. And as Chris says repeatedly, the reputational damage that's being done to this club is extraordinary.
We will bring in a female to be our first ever manager, and it will just show that we're shit at women's football, we're shit at men's senior football, and all of our youth teams shit. Actually, we are just a massive, stinking, smelly turd.
That might be the answer to completely, distance ourselves from the carnage. Is to actually. The thing is, of course, I can't even name a female manager, but bring in
Emma Hayes, you bigot, you naive,
Edith.
Charlatan, you
Edith Tugwell. I mean, I've got no idea, but just bring in some old slapper.
Maybe you could bring an ensemble of female managers in that keep you busy.
I tell you what, Age, if that was off the top of your head, Edith Tugwell, that's not a bad carry-on name, is it? Let's face it.
He's looking at you, Tony.
He's looking at you, Tony. He's looking at you. Right, I'm out of here. Goodbye. But yeah, it's all doom and gloom. I'm serious. I think I'd be interested to see the prices. Just have a quick look here.
Stop sharing your screen, or we can see viewing.
No, that's been cancelled.
Filipino boys is not a good look, is it? The fact you know that, Chris, says a lot about you as well, mate.
Always go incognito. No one knows what you've been looking at.
Yeah, Chelsea. This is interesting. Well, it's not really interesting, but it's terrifying in its own way. Chelsea 21-20, Spurs 9-4. There's not much in that, but I mean, I actually lump on Chelsea. Absolutely.
I wonder what the odds of Ange becoming the first manager in Premiership history to be sectioned during a game.
And here we have in 8-1 the Mental Health Act of 1986 has been issued. Put your underpants over your head, Chris. Let's do this.
Yeah, comes out the second half. Pencils up his nose. Wibble.
This would be the ultimate DEI car crash, where we have a guy who is pronounced to be nuts.
Could be dead during the game.
What happened to Ange? Well, he ripped his suit off, and underneath there was a sumo suit. Right, I'm out of here. I've had enough of this entire fiasco.
Thanks for the counselling today, boys. I feel a lot better. My blood pressure has dropped, and I'm hoping to about Tottenham until at least Sunday.
Sunday, yeah, it's Sunday afternoon. Be watching that, right? Okay.
Enjoy getting your rocks off at the Savoy tomorrow, brother.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Thank you.
Love you long time, Tone.
Ping pong.
Ping pong.
That was about as much carnage as I thought there was going to be.
You've got to upload all of that, H. They will love it.
Yeah, marvelous.
There was nothing that could get us in trouble.